At this point, I'll take some time for any other questions on the model, PBS, or anything else, East, West, and Middle Tennessee, and this classroom. Do you have any other questions? Marlene?
Is there any particular age that works better? Does it work as well with elementary students as it does with high school students?
Okay. All of the research points out wonderful effects on elementary level. There is some very good research being conducted currently in the middle school area, and very little data collected at the high school level. Okay? But we are working with schools right now in this county, in Rutherford County, at the high school level, trying to implement maybe components of PBS, maybe at the micro level, and then moving on to the macro level. So to answer your question, a lot of research in elementary, some research in middle school, very little in high school. But we are exploring the possibility right now of people like us researching and seeing how this could be part of an implementation plan at the high school level, maybe a variation of the model somewhat. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Emma.
Is this something that's just in Tennessee, or is it in other states?
Yes, good question. It is, since it's a federal model, and it is in almost all the states right now in the United States, little pieces of it getting started. When did it start? Actually, it started to come to the forefront the last 5 years. So when you're talking about positive behavior support, it sounds like an easy term, but when you really delve into it and you understand it fully today of what it really is in making the difference in children's lives, is that it is data-driven, it's a systems approach, and it has to do with prevention logic. Okay? But a lot of the states are moving towards it because they're starting to see that their ODRs are coming down in the first 3 months by 80%. That's powerful stuff, folks. We need to pay attention to that. And that's why I'm bringing this to you in Tennessee. Okay? Yes?
What kind of pre-test, post-test? Are you talking about rating scales, or are you talking about anecdotal information? What kind of data are you specifically talking about?
Okay. When we're talking about data, we're talking about, for example, at the secondary level, we will give a check-in, check-out card to a student. They will actually have these cards, and you'll hear more about this in October. And we will actually have a score on the card based on a target behavior and 5 descriptive short-term behaviors in there that they have to target and master through the day. This data will be on a rubric. 0 means not achieved, 1 getting there, or 3 achieved. Teacher just circles. It's kept, goes into a computer database, and then that's translated into a pre-test, which will be the first part, and then we're going to go through this intervention, and then we look at the post-test results to see if this check-in, check-out really did work. So your baseline actually is going to be all of the things that the student that's not working for the student right there. And you will go in using various types of instruments, behavioral observation instruments, interviews, anecdotal records like you talked about, and gathering that. But then after implementation of your check-in, connect, check-out, you will be very confident in the assumption that this did work in getting the student. And how long does that last you? Well, Beth, a good check-in, check-out program will last you approximately about 6 to 8 weeks, where the student enters into it and exit out after the 8th week. The other question you forgot to ask me, Beth, what happens if they don't make it in the check-in, check-out? Well, that's coming in November. Okay? All right. Good question. Any other questions?
I would see that this data would give better credibility to teachers and administrators when they came to a tertiary situation. And do you find that you have better cooperation with those outside entities, you know, the social services and things like that, because they do believe in the data that you've actually brought, that it's not just stories about this child's behavior?
Yes. Carol, what that's going to do is actually going to add lots of credibility, because you got actual data points. Can you imagine that? A data point. You're not just saying, well, I think he's like this or she's like that, and you're describing it in a narrative or giving qualitative information, which is open to interpretation. But here you got, how many occurrences of this happened? You got a number. And now if you got social services, Carol, in trying to work with you, they will see that and they'll say, yeah, we need to get involved. And by the way, the state of Tennessee is moving towards that type of model where we're looking more at interagency collaboration. So if you're a social services network out there or some type of support network watching in today, please remember that you need to be part of take an active role in forming partnerships with your schools, especially at the tertiary level, because that's where you are needed the most. Okay? Great question, Carol. Any other questions? East, middle, and west. Haven't heard from you. You're quite out there. All right, we will continue. Great. All right, effective school-wide, it needs to be tailored. It must fit the local context. We're not going to come there and transform your system, okay? We know that you're doing something good, but we want to put that in a system so you get the results you can see, interpret, analyze, and make some good decisions, okay? So that is what we want. It's durable, it's going to be functional, and it's very much doable, and it does not cost you anything, because what we're going to do is take your resources and analyze it and see how we can better manage behavior and create this system, okay? At the primary, at the secondary, and at the tertiary level. We want this whole thing to create a beautiful synergy so that we can be more effective in the delivery of instruction, because we want to be the gatekeepers of our engaged time here. We want to give more time back to instruction, right? We don't want to deal with the behavior. We want to put students on the path so that they can feel that they are being effective in school, and most important, supported, okay? The next part, points of support, we're looking at the individual level, we're looking at the wraparound service. We talk about an FBA. When a child moves from the secondary level to the tertiary level, automatically, this is what we do here in the state of Tennessee, we mandate a functional behavioral assessment. Automatically, we must do one. Whether you're on an IEP or not, I'll say that again, whether you're on an IEP or not, we do a functional behavioral assessment because we want to know where it is occurring, why it's occurring, and it's a function of what. Okay? So we do that. It's a pretty big deal. And we look at the data, and then we come up with a behavior intervention plan based on the PBS philosophy. Okay? And what level are we talking about here, folks? What level? Where do we? Thank you. Tertiary level is when we do the functional behavioral assessment and the FBA. Moving right along, the next piece is your classroom rules. Some ideas. Make sure your classroom rules are clearly defined. They need to be very specific as possible. Always remember, less is better. Always try to state them in the positive. Know when to take it to the next level. And here's a good rule of thumb. It is best to try and handle problems within your classroom rather than just do an office discipline referral all the time. So see if you can find mechanisms in place and build that with PBS. Use the opportunity to learn from it. Also, there's examples of proximity. And by the way, some of this stuff I will be talking more about in November when I talk about what works in classrooms. Okay? And again, the next slide talks about social skills training. We actually have to train some of our students when it comes to being able to understand language and pragmatics, engagement in conversation. Also get the class to agree, getting your class to buy into your rules. Not you telling them the rules, but you buying into it. Okay? So you can read up the next couple slides. So points of support, you must have support to do this from your district level, community level. We also got support from state and federal. Okay? The 4 perspectives, it is a 3-tiered approach, remember that. There is also very much of an instructional emphasis. We're looking at it from a functional perspective. We're looking at sustaining it over a period of time. Things to remember, review your existing information always, and set the measurable outcomes. And I included some things to remember so you can look at these things. And remember, have a common vision, common language, common experience, and everyone comes together. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it, and wish you the best of luck for your next semester.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zaf Khan. I'm going to go down here to the slide with your contact information, if I can get down there. And here is the contact information for Dr. Khan with his email address and phone number. I'd also like to thank the students from MTSU who were a wonderful audience for us today. I'd like to remind our site facilitators to please have today's participants complete session evaluation forms. Also, please have your participants complete the survey that accompanied today's program. Along with those session evaluation forms, our cable and webcasting viewers may get copies of the evaluation form and the survey by visiting our website at www.mtsu.edu/ITSC. And we're going to put up a slide with the address we'd like you to use for the evaluation form and the survey in mailing them back to us. You may also download a copy of the PowerPoint slides that went with today's program by visiting our website. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank my technical crew and support staff. I'd like to thank all the teachers who joined us for today's program, and I'd like to thank our site facilitators. Thank you.